Good evening and welcome to tonight's Finding Answers. We are talking about marriage tonight and what happens when you have a marriage or a relationship and things start to go wrong. Can that marriage be saved by faith, or is it a lot of hard work and dedication, just like you promised when those two made their vows at the altar? We're going to talk about saving a broken marriage. Before we do that, let's have a look at this quick testimony, someone who through faith they received help for their lives.
I used to be a very bubbly person, very sociable, but when I was by myself, I used to feel very empty, lonely, sad. I used to cry and just feel very, very unhappy. I just didn't know why, but I was very unhappy. That made me a very needy person. I thought my happiness would come from someone else. The first long relationship that I had, we had a child together, and I just had to, after 3 years, I had to flee from him because we had a very bad fight. And the second relationship, it was even worse. It was about 8 years of abuse, starting for psychological abuse, then lies, betrayal, unfaithfulness, until it got physical. I was totally depressed because I just couldn't deal with my life. I was really sad. I wanted to end with my life.
There was something about her I liked because she was always bubbly, but then I noticed that with time, she would come in some days and she would be very sad. She wouldn't speak to anyone. As she explained to me what she was going through, and I remember myself coming to the church, using my faith, learning how to overcome my problems and how I overcame them.
She was different from everybody else. She had a different faith, a different kind of advice. So I started wondering, where did she get this from? And that's when I got to know the church.
I was so happy because I knew within me that if she followed up with the advice that she was given, she'd be able to find a solution for her problems.
I learned how to deal with my problems in a different way. I learned how to live by faith. My life today is totally restored. I have control of my life. I know where to stand. I still have problems, but I know how to deal with them. I know how to overcome them. I face them. That's the beauty of it. For me now, nothing is impossible.
Here on Finding Answers, when we talk about, people getting help through God's power, we're talking about using faith. And we're talking about using a practical faith, not a belief in a history book, not a belief in religious texts or traditions. We're talking about faith, a practical faith that you can apply in your life and see results, positive results to everyday problems that people go through. And on tonight's program, we're talking about marriage. Actually, the topic is saving my broken marriage, because on this program, I have a lady who is going to be sharing her story of the problems she was facing in her marriage. And no matter what you try to do, when things don't seem to work out, who do you turn to? Of course, there is marriage counseling. You can get advice from friends and family members. But what worked for her was when she learned to use the power that is called faith. Faith that everyone has, but they don't know how to use that faith. They don't have the direction needed in order to solve their everyday problems. And maybe you are in a marriage that is going downhill. Maybe you are on the brink of divorce. Maybe you are, it's not a marriage. It's, beginning to be a friendship. You are no longer close as you were before. Things have turned sour in your marriage. And it's not just affecting you both, it's affecting, if you have children, it's affecting them as well. So we're talking about saving a broken marriage. And you're going to hear in this story how faith changed my guest's husband. You're going to learn more later on. But if you find yourself in a predicament, a similar predicament where your marriage is not going well, you don't know what to do, then why don't you try using your faith? Michael, how do I use my faith? Stay tuned then, because we're going to teach you, we're going to show you practical things that anyone can do. Anyone can do it. It's just if you believe that it will work or not. And that's what faith is all about. All right? Now, we're going to open the lines for you if you like to call in. If you are going through a marriage problem, it's a crisis, it's got to that stage where you don't know what to do anymore, then we have a hotline number, a line that's open now. The lines are open now until the end of the program. And if you want to talk to someone regarding your marriage problems, you don't have to give your full details. You don't have to go into everything. But if you just want someone to talk to, an advisor, then the number's on your screen. The lines are open now. It's 0207 686 6300. That's 0207 686 6300. You can also send in your email here now if you have a question or you would like us to pray for you at the end of the program, which we do. And that email address is help@findinganswers.tv. And if you want to send us a tweet, you can do so. You just do @FindAnswersTV. And as usual, our programs are uploaded to our YouTube channel. All you need to do is do a search on YouTube, Finding Answers, and you can see all the past programs of people who, had a problem, but they learned how to use their faith to solve it. So, does God want to help you solve or find answers to your marriage problems? Yes, He does. So, for the next, I will say 45 minutes or so, stay with us, all right? And you're going to hear a very inspiring story of this couple and what they went through and how they found the solutions to their problems. We'll see you right after this break.
Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show.
Do the maths. Changing your life is not as simple as changing your hairstyle, your shirt, or rearranging the furniture in your living room. You're talking about years of deep-rooted habits, behaviours and problems that are not going to change overnight. Many may say, think positively, but the trouble with that is that you can't do or change anything with just thoughts. But add action into the equation and the outcome can be different. Let's do the maths. Positive thinking plus action equals a change. Whatever it is, if the change is significant, if it's worthwhile, then it will have to take time, effort and homework from you.
Make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
My Channel TV, featuring a kaleidoscopic daily dose of programming. Stay with us every day and explore politics, economics, science, technology, lifestyle, culture, sports, and much more. We're here to amuse you, to keep you updated, and to keep you company. We're My Channel, your channel on Sky 203.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now, if you just tuned in, our topic for tonight is saving my broken marriage. And if you are going through any problems at all in your relationship or your marriage, then you're going to see this real life story now of a couple who went through real deep issues in their marriage. If they didn't get the help that they did, I'm sure they would not be here to tell their tale tonight. But let's meet them now. Their names are Ronie and Keith Samuel.
It's pushing me for the rest of the week, so it's like a boost.
Things were really tight.
Today, the way I see myself is completely different.
Ronie and Keith, welcome to the program. How are you two?
Good.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story with us. Now, you both had, I'm sure everything was started off well in the beginning, as any marriage normally does.
Exactly.
But Ronie, tell me what happened? When did things start to go wrong, and how long into your marriage did things start to go wrong?
Well, when we got married, I mean, things were really good. And then it was like, it wasn't even 2 months really into the marriage.
That soon?
That soon.
Right.
Things started to get really, well, it really spiraled down because it was just the arguments and there was no compromising from either one of us. And, you know, I just felt to myself that I was betrayed in the marriage because, you know, my husband, you know, he was somebody who, you know, when he asked me to date with him and everything, it was really good. But then for some reason, he then started to really change.
How long did you date for?
It was a year.
Mm.
It was a year to when he actually asked me to marry him.
So you thought everything was kind of rosy, everything was going well in that year.
Yes.
As soon as you got married, then within, what, 2 months, as you said, he kind of changed into someone completely different.
It just, you know, it was like looking at someone like a Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, what he used to portray in front of others wasn't what he was portraying to me.
And what was
behind
that?
Closed. Well, the thing is, he had this image where if he was in the presence of anyone, they'd look at him and they'd think, oh, he's a really nice guy. But deep down, he wasn't.
You knew the real Keith at home.
Yeah.
Just describe how Keith was.
He had a very foul mouth. He also, he would drink, you know, have a drink, but then he just didn't really sort of participate as a father and a husband at home. He was very within himself. And if I brought to his attention how his behavior was at home, he would then turn it around and make it look as if I was the one who was causing the problems.
Right.
And then from one extreme to another, things would really, really escalate.
Did of course, you argued, you fought. Was there any point where it got physical?
It was very physical.
Yeah? Can you describe any kind of instance?
Well, it got so bad when he would throw the words at me, because, I mean, the words were very, very deep. And for me, it was, if he had actually hit me, it would have been better for him to hit me rather than the words, the accusations he'd be throwing at me. So
what did he accuse you of?
Well, he'd accused me of being with someone else. And though I tried to explain to him that in regards to our relationship, which was no longer a relationship, the relationship became dead, if to put it bluntly. It was totally dead. There was just no, there was no communication, there was no physical contacts.
But that wasn't in the first 2 months. How long did that take until, as you said it, you described it as being dead?
Well, to be quite honest, we got married in the August, and by the October, I started really seeing changes in him. And seeing the changes and trying to address them to him, he didn't want to have anything to do with it because, one, he kept thinking to himself that I was really just nagging him. And, you know, yes, he did have a drink, but through that, it just made the family separated because, you know, he wasn't partaking with us at all. He wasn't, you know, being a husband. He wasn't being a father. And when the situations got really, really bad, to be quite honest, I was the one who actually would throw the first physical blow. And that was only for him to stop.
You mean hitting
Yes,
out?
yes. I'd lash out on him because he'd really call me some nasty names. And that got really deep. That was really deep inside of me.
Yeah.
And the only way I felt that if I did lash out on him, he would stop.
Now, you mentioned about him, the drink. Was that kind of what made things kind of worse?
It did make it worse.
What was he drinking?
He'd be drinking lager, spirit. And though when he did drink, and because he wasn't the kind of person when he drank, he'd be stumbling, you know, his words would be slurred. He didn't have any of that at all.
Did he see that as a problem, or was it just normal for him?
For him it was normal.
Keith, I want to bring you in here. Welcome to the program. So, you know, why was it that you started to drink? What was it? So, were you drinking before you got married, or did it start after your marriage?
I was drinking before because it's like, I don't know, put it down to a culture thing because like when we were younger, and my father used to come up and he used to say, "Here boy, have a drink, you know what I mean, be a man, have a drink."
Right.
So it was a thing, you know. And it's a thing that we used to do when we go out raving. We used to have our bottle with us, you know, so we'll have a bottle of whiskey, and like we'll buy some weed, you know what I mean? So we'll have the whiskey and the weed to smoke and drink.
Right.
So it was like a culture thing. And as I get married, my wife was telling me that I have a drink problem, you know what I mean, because we used to argue a lot. But I used to thinking that my wife just nagging me.
Yes.
You know what I mean, because I'm just having a drink, enjoying myself, you know what I mean?
Were you working at the time?
Yeah, I was working.
So you were going up to work?
Yeah.
And was it, when you would come home, would you drink at home or would you also drink
I'll drink
anywhere?
at work and at home.
Right.
But as I said, I was just telling my wife that she would, you know what I mean, call like I come home, watch the cricket, couple cans of beer, like I'll have special brew, super tenants, whiskey. And if I can't get that, I would like, if I buy the cheap lager, then I'll buy a whiskey to top it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So could you say that you had an alcohol problem?
At the time, I didn't, but now,
Of course now, yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't see it as a problem?
I didn't see it at the time because, like, what made me realize now that I had a problem, when my wife used to cook the food, I used to go into a bedroom and chuck the food out the window because the drink cut my appetite.
Really? And
Yeah.
she didn't know at the time?
No, she didn't know.
There
Right.
was moments I did know that he'd throw the food away because with the thrown out the window, I didn't know, because outside of our window there was a lot of bushes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. But there were times that if I went into the kitchen and I'd be throwing something into the bin, then I'd notice that his food was in the bin.
Yeah.
And again, that would start off another argument.
So again, you know, this was very early in your marriage.
Very early.
And you had children together.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think, you know, how many children do you have?
4.
4 children. When you had your first child, did you think maybe he's going to change now? He's going to, you know, be a husband, be a father, and he's going to stop drinking. Did you ever think
Well,
that?
you have this kind of fairy tale, because like I was quite a romantic. I'd watch all these romantic films, and at the end there'd always be a happy ending.
Mm.
So for me, that's what I thought. And each day, each month, year, I kept saying, he'll get better.
Right.
But then, rather than getting better, he was actually getting worse.
Mm.
As he was getting worse, the arguments were getting worse. As the arguments got worse, the fights got worse, because there was even a moment when I actually smashed a 5-litre bottle of cognac over his head.
Really? It got that bad?
It was that bad. And he ended up in A&E. And to be quite honest, I didn't really care. Now, it got to that point now, I didn't care.
You were considering divorcing him?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I spoke to him about it because, before we even spoke about, I spoke to him about getting divorced, I spoke about to him for us to have some counselling.
Yeah.
And because I spoke to my GP about this, and he was willing to provide all of this for us. But then he turned it around again, as he always did. I was the one with the problem. I am not going anywhere, and I'm not going to be talking to anybody about anything, because
my business.
You're the problem.
Right, okay.
So that didn't happen.
Mm.
And because it didn't happen, again, you know, I decided I can't live like this. I spoke to him about leaving the home, and when he actually saw that I was serious now, he'd then beg me. I'm sorry, you know, it's just that, you know, the reason why I do this is because, you know, when you start saying things, it makes me drink more. So again, it's always me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was, you know, I love you, I love the children, you're my everything, there's no one else. And I'd say to him, but there is someone else. And he said, but there isn't. I said, there is. It's the alcohol. Mm. And, you know, he said, okay, I'll stop. And I remember there was a time that, you know, we bought some drinks, you know, for the Christmas. And I had some wine that I'd put aside. And I remember actually going into the cupboard for a bottle. And I noticed that there was some missing. And this is how he used to think, that I was so stupid that I wouldn't even notice that there were bottles missing. Because at this point, he had actually drank off. There was like 4 separate cases of lager that was there for him. And there was so many vodka, whiskey that was there for him. And he only had like 2 bottles left. And when I approached him about drinking the wine that I had there, you know, if anyone came to the house, he then started saying, I didn't touch anything. Why would I want to touch your drink? You know, I've got my own. I said, you did take it. Who else is going to take? Because the children, they weren't drinking because they were young. Mm-hmm. And he then went in a rage, and he went into the cupboard, and the other alcohol he had in the cupboard, he goes, look, prove it to you, and he poured it all down the zinc. Right. But then even doing all of that,
saying, this is not a problem, I'm not going to drink anymore, it's not a, you know.
But he still turned around where he went, and he was going to his brother, and he was drinking there, and he was still drinking more of the alcohol, the lager, the wine that I had in the cupboard.
Right.
So to be honest, I threw them all away.
Right.
And I said, now let me see what you're going to drink now.
The thing is, he still had a problem.
He did.
You were, you know, he didn't want to go to counselling. No. Did you take it any further than that, or did you say, look, this is how I'm going to have to accept the way this is?
I did take it further because I actually got the police to get him out of the house.
Really?
Because...
Did they actually come and remove him?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
I mean, he had this potential that, oh, well, you know, it's my name on the tenancy, because we lived in a council property at the time. And even when we moved into our own home, it was the same thing. And, you know, the police, they took him out. They'd come and they'd ask me, do you want him back into the home? And I turned around and I said, yes.
So he came back the same night?
So he came back in.
Right.
But there was a point where, at this point, when we had our home, our house that we're living in, I told them no. But this time, it wasn't me who called the police, he called the police.
Right.
And when he called the police, they came to the house. And when they came to the house, it wasn't based on because he had called them, because we had this disagreement. They came to see if I was okay.
Right.
And they said to me, he's out there, you know, and I said to them, well, I want him to stay out there. And I gave them some black bags with all his things, and I said to him, he can go. And at that point, that was the one point I never took him back then.
Keith, wasn't that a wake-up call for you?
No, because one of the things, you know, when she mentioned about the counsellor, I had too much pride. You know what I mean? I think it was nobody's business. I mean, why should I go and discuss my business with them? I mean, and we really did have some bad fight because Insaf took the wedding rings and I took them through the window.
Who did?
I did.
You did?
I took them to the window. I don't know the police find them, but they find them.
Right.
He threw them in the bin shaft as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And
they're the reason why they went lost, right? You still have them today?
So,
no? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, we've got different ones.
Then, like, when we got to bed, I mean, she wouldn't want to sleep with me. So obviously I said, well, if you don't want to sleep with me, you must have someone. I mean, because if you don't want to sleep with me, you must have someone. You must be sleeping.
So you kind of turned it around on her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not seeing that you know, you're not the problem, she's the problem.
Yeah. And so that was it, you know. And we just basically fight. She took a knife. I don't know if I still have the scar. She cut me with a knife. Yeah. And that was it.
Did you ever think that things would change, or did you think she's going to be with me forever like this? Did you think there could be things could get better? What did you think?
I didn't think I could change because, as I said, I didn't see nothing wrong with me.
Right.
I didn't think there was no change.
So again, she's the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see it was a marriage from hell, basically.
It was a marriage from hell.
Yeah.
And it was so sad because the thing is, I really wanted our marriage to work, and it was just, even to the point when he spoke about, you know, being at home and me not wanting him to touch me, because, you know, if I turned to face him, it was like I was smelling a brewery. It was so bad.
And then probably going to bed together and smelling it in the bedroom.
Horrible. It was always coming out of his pores. And it just didn't matter how much, not that he did really go to the bathroom to brush his teeth, but I just couldn't take the smell. But even at that point, he would always force himself on me. And, you know, that even made me hate him more.
Yeah.
Because now he was literally taking advantage of me, and I decided, well, no, I'm not going to allow this to happen.
You know, there was disgust there, but deep down, you loved him, did you? Or were you getting to that point of kind of losing it?
I did love him at one point, but what happened when it got so deep, that love became into hate. The hatred was so bad. It was really, you know, it had such a bad taste in my mouth because now I could even taste the hatred.
Right.
I would spit.
At him?
No, I would spit because I just felt so vile towards him.
Right.
And I couldn't bear him to look at me. And I didn't want to hear his voice anymore. And I remember when the police took him away and he went to his mother's house, and then he rang me up and he was crying and he was begging me and he was saying to me, you know, I'll never do this again. And, you know, the children was asking me, where's Daddy? And, you know, I'm saying to them, well, he's not going to be coming back. And they're asking me why. And I didn't really have the answers to tell them, you know. And he then used the kids, really, in order for him to come back home, because then he asked if he could speak with them. And I was listening on the phone and I could hear him saying to them, you know, him saying to them like, you know, you want me to come back, you want Daddy to come back home, don't you? And obviously they're saying yes. There was only one of our children who didn't want him to come back, and that was my eldest daughter. She didn't want him to come back because she was actually seeing how much he was hurting me.
Right.
And he then said to me for me to come round to his mum, and then foolishly I did. And I took the kids with me because obviously I had no other choice. So then he was there with the children, playing with them, and then, you know, we went outside and he was saying to me, you see, I can change. And I'm saying, but you haven't changed.
Yeah.
Yes, but I have changed.
So it's all back at square one again, right?
And it just took him back, and then it was less than a week. He started drinking again, and at that point it got even worse, the drinking.
Okay. Now, you've heard everything so far, what happened to this marriage. After the break, you're going to find out how Roni used her faith to change the marriage around. Something that she did that caused him to change. Please, if you found their story interesting, stay tuned because it gets even more interesting, all right? We'll see you right after this break.
The pursuit of happiness. What will make you happy? Success? Fame? New shoes? Financial security? Love? Education? Independence? Family? Sometimes in the pursuit of things we think will bring us happiness, sometimes we fail to see that we aren't happy, or we never find it. We live in a world of people. Rather than pursue things to make you happy, what if we all worked to make each other happy? Wouldn't we all be happier?
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now, I'm back with Roni and Keith talking about their marriage problems. And let's return back to Roni because there was a point that she reached, and I want you to hear this. So, Roni, what was the worst point for you?
The worst point for me was when there was a night when my husband, he was there slumped on the sofa, and I had contemplated in my head how I could kill him and dispose of the body. I actually had the knife in my hand and I was actually standing over him.
You got to that point where you wanted to kill your own husband.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
It was really bad. But then I would say at that time it was unfortunate, but it's not unfortunate now, but at the time it was unfortunate that it was like a quick thought came into my head. You're on the second floor, you don't have any lifts in the block. How was I going to actually bring the body down 2 flights from where we lived, because we were on the second floor.
And where were your children?
They were in bed.
They're in bed, okay.
Yeah.
So that was the worst point?
That was the worst point.
When you came to yourself and thought, hold on, what's going on here? What did you think? Did you kind of think, what am I thinking? Or did you still think, I want to go ahead with this?
There wasn't no, like, the only thing that came to me was, how was you going to take that body down the stairs?
Right.
I still wanted to get rid of him because as far as I was concerned, if he was dead, he'd be out of my life.
Right.
He won't be tormenting my brain any further.
Okay. Now look, tell us how you used faith, because thank God you didn't do that.
Thank God.
But you found help, didn't you? Tell us how did faith help you to be where you are, both are today?
Well, one of my sisters was attending a place of worship and she invited me to come along. And I actually went along and I was listening to, you know, when the pastor was speaking, and, you know, I didn't understand at first, I really didn't, but the more I kept attending, the more I was understanding. It got to the point when he was even speaking to me, you know, he was giving me some advice. He gave me the, you know, some holy oil.
Let me stop you there before you talk about that. You were going along to your sister's place of worship. Did you believe in God? Did you ever pray about your marriage problems before?
No, I believed in God, but I never, because I never knew how to even pray about my marriage.
Right.
I didn't think that prayer would have resolved my situation.
Yeah.
I mean, when I prayed, my prayers was only the prayer of the Lord's Prayer anyway, because it's what I was taught.
Yeah.
So I never really had that in thought, that anything in regards to prayer or holy oil would resolve anything, and using my faith, because I always thought I was using it.
You went along.
Yeah.
You said, you know, you spoke about your problems. You know, you got prayed for, or you started praying about your marriage. What type of things did they advise you to do? Because you had a lot of issues inside of you, right?
Which I didn't realize at first. And when I was actually advised to, first of all, look at myself, to identify what the problems were inside of me that I needed to change, and that did upset me.
Initially, I'm sure it might upset many people at home, because just hearing what you said now, with everything that he did, blaming you, he doesn't have the problems, then you're told, look at your issues.
Because now I'm thinking they're turning the table around on me.
Like my husband did.
Yes. But
what did you discover about yourself?
As time, it didn't take long for me to really understand what was really being said to me. And what I decided to do was to really look at myself inside.
Right.
And what I discovered of myself, it wasn't nice.
Right. And what did you discover about yourself?
And what I actually discovered for myself was that he's my husband, And, you know, I was always wanting to have the last say. I was disrespecting him. I wasn't being a total wife to my husband. And it did hurt. It was very painful, because now I was realizing that there was fault on my side. And I decided that I needed to change.
I know some people might disagree with what you're saying, especially if they're going through the same thing now that you went through. You know, I meant to submit to my husband, even though he's mistreating me, he's saying these things, he's abusive, he's hit me. How can I be a wife that this person's telling me to be? But you recognize, hold on, nothing has changed so far, so let me look at, actually you realize there were problems with you, no matter what, that needed to be addressed. Even if you know, your husband was the sweetest man in the world, but still there were things in you that you didn't like about yourself.
I had a lot of anger inside of me, which I didn't realize. And in having those angers, I realized, you know, even reflecting now at that time now, when I wanted to kill my husband, how could I even think about that? And also, I realized that two wrongs didn't make a right. And I was really taught how I can use my faith, because I always thought that I do have faith, and I was using it.
So, you know, as you said, you just said, Keith, he thought he was okay, but then you also played the victim because you thought you were okay, I'm being mistreated. So in actual fact, there were problems on both sides. And as you said, two wrongs don't make a right. Someone had to give in and change. And obviously you were the one that was going along for help. And you realized, you know, he's not going to change, let me change. So as you worked on yourself, which as you said, it wasn't easy, and it's not going to be easy for anyone. But you did, you had that kind of strength to change. Tell us about some practical things that you had to do at home.
Okay.
Very briefly, because we don't have much time.
Well, the practical side of things was really being a wife now. And if he said anything negative to me, kept my mouth shut. I'd apologize, even though I wasn't wrong, but I'd apologize. That
was hard to bite your tongue, right?
It was. But, you know, I realized as I started doing these things, he actually said to me he could see a difference in me.
I want to ask Keith, did you notice a difference, Keith?
Yeah, I noticed a difference in her. She wasn't arguing so much. She wasn't nagging me so much. And sometimes what I used to notice before, to me, she used to like to put me down in front of people, but that wasn't happening no more. So these are the changes that I did notice in her.
And regarding the drink, tell us about how he stopped drinking. Tell us something that you did.
Well, I was advised that, you know, if I use my faith and believe that what I was asked to do, and that was, I was given some holy oil to put some in his alcohol, and without him knowing, then believing in that and having that real assurance in myself through my faith that he would stop.
Keith, tell us what happened.
Well, one night I was in bed and I went for the drink and I drank it, and I told her that this tasted a bit bitter, and she told me...
This was a can of beer?
Yeah.
You opened one?
Yeah.
Drank it, it tasted bitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she told me that she used her faith, you know, by praying and using the oil in it.
She told you what she did?
Yeah.
Right.
So I said to her then, all right then, make us see how good your faith is. I went and get another one.
Another can?
Yeah. And drink it, but that tasted the same, you know.
Everything tasted the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened?
And that was it. I left it, you know, and I never drank for a couple of months, And one day it was really hot, and I went in the half license to pick up beer. But instead of pick up the beer, pick up a Coke.
Right.
You know, and
that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
So that was it. That was the end of it.
Yeah. But I never. There was one time before where my wife told me that she used her faith. She never had no petrol in the car, and she used her faith, you know what I mean, and it took her home. So I said to her, why don't you use your faith and pay the mortgage?
Right.
Yeah, because, you know, I still didn't believe, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, but eventually, my wife invited me, and eventually I start coming to a place where I'm in, and eventually I start learning how to use my faith as well.
So you changed, right? How have things been then, Ronnie?
It's been so much better.
Right.
Because now it's, what, 13 years? He hasn't drank, and now, you know, we can have a discussion. We can disagree to not agree with each other, because everyone has their own opinions. But it's so much better.
And now, is it this Sunday?
Sunday the 21st.
You are celebrating how many years?
34 years.
34 years married?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for coming and sharing your story with us, all right? I'm sure it's going to help many viewers watching. Now, we're going to go for a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be praying for you. If you find yourself, you know, in a marriage that is, it's on the rocks, and you want help, then you've heard Roni's story, how her husband, which you've seen how they are today, how he has changed. Your life can also change when you use the power of faith. We'll be back right after this break.
Hi everyone, I'm James.
And I am Helena.
Join us here every Saturday at 3 p.m. for Love Talk,
the show that teaches you how to love intelligently.
On my channel, Sky 203.
See you there.
Love Talk on my channel, Sky 203, every Saturday, 3 p.m.
Follow my channel's updates on Facebook. Like your favourite videos and see pictures of your favourite artists. Access our Twitter at MyChannelUK and get to know what's on with My Channel. Visit tvmychannel.com and be connected to our world. My Channel, a whole new world of entertainment.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Before we pray for you tonight, I just want to tell you about marriage. And when it comes to marriage, marriage is an institution as we know, but it is God that created marriage for man and woman to be together. And if you go through marriage problems, then who do you need to go to solve it? They tried counseling, but most times it doesn't work unless both parties are willing to participate and put into practice the help. But when you're going through problems so bad as they did, then the only solution is faith in God. And you know what? There isn't a thing such as marriage problems. Marriage, when it's done properly, it works. It is the individuals within that marriage that cause problems. Now, when a husband is a husband, a wife is a wife, and they work together, marriage will be a blessing. And maybe that's your case. Marriage works. There's no such thing as marriage problems. It's what you are doing And you see, in Keith's case, he was drinking. And of course, that came with a lot of issues which affected Ronie. And then she resulted in doing the things that she did. That's got nothing to do with marriage. So, if you're going through problems, then we are going to pray right now. If you want, you can join us. Get your glass of water ready, because we're going to use our faith right now. It's time for prayer.
Prepare now for the moment of prayer. If you would like us to make a prayer concerning your family and loved ones, send your name and prayer request to help@findinganswers.tv.
My God and my Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, I present all the couples out there. This husband, or indeed wife, who is tuned in, listening to Ronie and Keith's story, and wishing that they could be at this point. We know, we've just heard, it wasn't always like this in the beginning. But it was through faith in humbling herself and being what you wanted her to be as a wife. This resulted in the change, not only in herself first, but also in her husband. My God, no matter what situation this couple may be going through, if they're on the brink of divorce, if, my Lord, they are both at fault, my Lord, there is an answer. There is a solution. And I pray, Father, that they will experience what marriage is about. The love that a husband has for his wife and vice versa. Change this wife, change this husband, and show them, my Lord, that marriage works. And as Ronie used her faith, Lord, I pray for this person now who is praying for their marriage, that as they use their faith now in this prayer, you will touch not only them, but also their partner. Don't let them argue anymore. Don't let them point at each other's mistakes, but instead humble themselves and see the mistakes in them first. My God, as you blessed Ronie and Keith, I bless this marriage, I bless this couple in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. You may drink this water now, and may this change, may this anger, may this hatred, whatever it is inside of you, be removed from your life. In Jesus' name. There is a solution, and it started tonight. Learn from what Ronie said about the change. Work on yourself. Pray and ask God to help you be a husband or wife in your house, okay? And I'm sure you're going to see a great change in your marriage. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you on the next Finding Answers. Bye-bye.